Ladies and gentlemen, imagine waking up tomorrow feeling completely transformed, energized, focused, and most of us, it's not intentional, it's reactive. Maybe it's the shrill alarm blaring beside your bed. Maybe it's the list of emails that came in overnight, or it's the wave of anxiety that hits. As soon as you remember that meeting you didn't prepare for, that bill you forgot to pay, or the argument you had the night before. We begin our day in chaos because we never take the time to claim those first few minutes as ours. We hand them over to the world, to the noise, to the pressure. But what if you didn't? What if the first 5 minutes of your day weren't just about getting up and going, but grounding yourself in something deeper, something meaningful? It's tempting to think that small changes won't make much of a difference. We live in a culture obsessed with big moves and instant results. But the truth is, transformation doesn't always begin with a bang. Often it begins with a whisper, a pause, a moment of stillness in a world that never stops spinning. Just 5 minutes, not even enough time to finish a cup of coffee, can create a shift that affects the next 23 hours and 55 minutes of your life. That 5-minute habit is intentional morning reflection. And I'm not talking about simply thinking positive or running through a checklist of affirmations. I mean sitting down with yourself without distraction and tuning into your purpose, reflecting on what you value, asking what kind of person do I want to be today? Not what tasks you want to complete or what meetings you need to attend, but who you want to show up as, the version of you that acts in alignment with your values, not your stress. This one habit creates clarity, and clarity is everything. It's the difference between living by default and living by design. There's something extraordinary that happens when you take control of your mental state before the world has a chance to hijack it. When you decide in those quiet moments before the noise kicks in what matters most, you stop reacting. You start responding. And here's what's even more powerful. The science backs this up. Numerous studies show that people who start their day with reflection, journaling, or mindfulness experience significantly higher levels of focus, resilience, and emotional stability throughout the day. It's not just that you feel better. Your brain literally functions better. Your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for decision, focus, and self-regulation, becomes more active and engaged when you begin your day with intention. You've probably heard of people who swear by morning routines, leaders, creatives, athletes. But this isn't about copying what successful people do, it's about understanding why they do it. Oprah Winfrey, for example, speaks often about her morning ritual of stillness and intention. She says that it's not just a practice, it's a necessity, that it helps her stay anchored no matter what chaos is swirling around her. And it's no coincidence. The people we admire most aren't always the busiest or most talented. They're the clearest, they know who they are and what they stand for, and they return to that center every single day. When you begin your morning with reflection, you create a moment of alignment, a realignment of who you are and who you're trying to become. And that's not just poetic, it's practical. Think about how much of your day is spent reacting. Someone cuts you off in traffic and you're instantly angry. You open an email with unexpected feedback and suddenly your confidence is shaken. You scroll through social media and feel behind before you've even started your day. These aren't isolated incidents. They're evidence of a mind untethered. But a mind that begins in clarity is a mind that can withstand those storms. You don't get tossed around by the waves. You steer your own ship. And let's be honest, most people don't take this time. Not because they don't care, but because they don't realize what it's costing them. It feels like there's no time. But the truth is, we spend time every morning. We just don't always spend it wisely. We reach for our phones before we've even gotten out of bed. We check messages, the news, notifications, and within seconds, we're no longer living our own life. We're reacting to someone else's. What would change if instead of reaching outward, you reached inward? If before checking in with the world, you checked in with yourselves? You might think, I'm not a morning person. But this has nothing to do with the time you wake up and everything to do with how you choose to wake up. Whether your day starts at 5 a.m. or 10 a.m., the principle is the same. Begin it with intention. That's the real game. There's a reason high performers swear by this habit. It's because clarity isn't just a luxury. It's a tool. It's what allows you to prioritize effectively, to communicate with confidence, and to stay grounded in the face of uncertainty. It gives you direction when the world feels chaotic and overwhelming. But even more than that, it gives you peace. Because when you start your day connected to your values, your actions start to reflect those values. You feel more authentic, more aligned, and that alignment reduces internal conflict. The invisible tug of war that so many of us feel every day between what we do and who we want to be. There was a time in my own life when I woke up every morning already behind, already stressed. It didn't matter how much sleep I got or how well I planned the night before. The mornings felt like a war zone. Everything was urgent, everything was loud, and I noticed that it wasn't just making me less productive, it was making me less present. I wasn't really there for my work, my family, or myself. I was just going through the motions. The shift came when I started reclaiming those first 5 minutes. I didn't change my whole morning routine. I didn't add hours of journaling or silent meditation. I simply took 5 minutes, no phone, no noise, and asked myself, what matters most today? Who do I want to be? And everything changed. The emails were still there, the meetings didn't disappear, but I began each day with a clear sense of direction. I began to feel like I was living on purpose instead of just getting through it. And that feeling, that sense of intentional living, is addictive in the best possible way. If there's one thing I want you to take away, it's this. The quality of your life doesn't just depend on the big moments. It depends on the small ones, the quiet ones, especially the ones at the very beginning of your day. Those moments set the tone, they shape your mindset. They determine how you show up, not just for your responsibilities, but for yourself. 5 minutes of morning reflection won't solve all your problems, but it will remind you of what truly matters. It will give you the strength to face your day with courage and conviction. And it will slowly, quietly, and powerfully change everything. We often think that energy is something we either wake up with or we don't. We tell ourselves, I'm not a morning person, or I just need my coffee before I can function. But what if energy isn't something that happens to us, but something we generate intentionally through small, repeatable choices? There's a habit so simple, so seemingly insignificant, that most people overlook it entirely. Yet, it impacts your clarity, your focus, your mood, your metabolism, and your overall vitality. And it takes less than 30 seconds to do. I'm talking about the simple, powerful habit of drinking water first thing in the morning. Not coffee, not juice, just water. Now I know what you might be thinking. How can something so ordinary make any real difference? Isn't water just water? But here's the truth. Your body has gone without hydration for 6 to 8 hours while you were asleep. During that time, it continues to perform critical function. Cellular repair, memory consolidation, temperature regulation, all without irritability and an inability to focus. The University of Birmingham conducted a study showing that even mild dehydration, just a 112% drop in body water, can negatively affect cognitive performance and increase feelings of anxiety and tension. And that's mild dehydration, the kind most of us don't even realize we're experiencing. Think about what that means. Before you've even stepped into your day, you're already at a disadvantage. You're trying to solve problems, make decisions, engage with people, and perform at your best while your brain is operating under strain. Now imagine what happens when you flip that narrative. Imagine waking up, stepping into your kitchen, and drinking a full glass of water before anything else. Not just a sip, a full glass around 300 to 500 ml. In that simple act, you're not just quenching thirst. You're giving your body permission to function optimally. You're saying, let's begin this day fueled, not drained. It's not just physical energy we're talking about, it's mental and emotional clarity too. Water supports the delivery of oxygen to your brain, which improves concentration and alertness. It helps flush out toxins that accumulate overnight. It kickstarts your digestive system, preparing it for the food you'll eat later. It even impacts your mood. One study found that people who increased their water intake experienced a significant improvement in their emotional well-being, including reduced fatigue, confusion, and anger. And yet, this is one of the most underutilized performance habits out there. Why? Because it's so easy, we assume it can't matter. But if there's one thing I've learned, it's that small acts, when done consistently and intentionally, create massive ripple effects. We spend so much time looking for the next big breakthrough, the new diet, the new supplement, the perfect productivity hack, when often the change we're searching for is hidden in plain sight. A glass of water may not look like much, but practice daily. It becomes a cornerstone of how you care for yourself. Not reactively, but deliberately. I once met a CEO who ran a company of 500 employees, high-pressure days, packed schedule, constantly flying across time zones. But no matter where he was in the world, no matter how late he got in, he never missed one habit: drinking water the moment he woke up. When I asked him why, he said something that stuck with me. He said, because I can't afford to start my day already behind. That glass of water is my starting line. It reminds me that my performance is my responsibility. We live in a culture that often glorifies burnout and late nights and hustling harder. But what if the real mark of discipline isn't how much pain you can endure, but how consistently you choose to care for yourself in the smallest ways? What if energy isn't a product of willpower or caffeine, but of self-respect? That's what this habit really comes down to, self-respect. It's saying my body deserves to be supported. My brain deserves clarity. My day deserves to begin with intention. You see, energy isn't something that magically appears. It's something we either invest in or deplete moment by moment, choice by choice. And the first choice of your day sets the tone for all the others that follow. We all know what it feels like to chase energy all day. That constant need for stimulation, more coffee, more snacks, another quick fix. But if you've ever had a day where you started strong, hydrated, clear, focused, you know how different everything feels. Your patience lasts longer. Your mood is more stable. You make sharper decisions. You communicate better. You feel grounded. That shift doesn't require a complete lifestyle overhaul. It starts with a single habit: water before anything else. And if you want to take it one step further, pair that water with a moment of pause. Don't just chug and run. Drink slowly, breathe, feel yourself waking up, not just physically, but mentally. Use that moment as a conscious transition from sleep to presence. You'll be surprised how grounding it is to begin your day that way. In that space, there's no rush, no alerts, no pressure, just you, your breath, and a body being honored. There's something beautifully human about starting your day with care. It's not flashy. It's not impressive to anyone else, but it's powerful because it reminds you that you are not a machine that needs to be powered up. You are a living being that needs to be supported, and support when practiced consistently turns into strength. Strength that doesn't just help you survive your day, but helps you own it. So when the alarm goes off tomorrow and your mind begins its usual sprint pause, go to your kitchen, fill a glass, and remember that small act holds the potential to change everything that comes after it. You're not just hydrating your body, you're setting the standard for how you treat yourself. When you raise that standard, everything around you rises with it. Gratitude is one of those words we hear so often that we sometimes stop hearing it altogether. It's been printed on coffee mugs, posted on social media, and woven into countless motivational quotes. And because of that, we've started to treat it like a warm and fuzzy idea thing. Nice to feel, something sweet to say when things are going well. But gratitude isn't just a soft sentiment, it's a strategic choice. One that holds the power to reshape the way we think, the way we lead, and the way we live. When you wake up in the morning, what direction does your mind naturally go? For many people, it immediately begins scanning for problems. You think about what's missing, what went wrong yesterday, what could go wrong today. That mental habit, though common, is costly. It wires your brain to focus on scarcity, on what's lacking, what's broken, what's not enough. And once you start your day from that place, everything begins to feel heavier. Your responsibilities feel more overwhelming, your relationships more strained, and your goals more distant. It's like beginning the day already emotionally overdrawn. But what if instead of focusing on what's missing, you trained your mind to start with what's already here? What if your first thoughts weren't consumed by stress or doubt, but grounded in appreciation? That shift, though it may sound smallest, where the real magic begins. Because gratitude isn't just about being thankful for what you have. It's about seeing the world through a different lens. A lens that filters in hope, positivity, and strength of when things are hard. The science behind it is compelling. Researchers at UC Davis ran a study where participants were asked to keep a daily gratitude journal. They didn't write essays, just a few lines every day, noting what they were grateful for. The results: participants experienced 25% fewer physical symptoms like headaches, nausea, and fatigue. Even more remarkably, they reported feeling 10% better about their lives overall. 10% may not sound like much on paper, but imagine if you could improve your emotional state by 10%. Just by taking 2 minutes a day to focus on what's good. Over time, that kind of shift compounds. It changes your baseline for happiness and resilience. But here's where it gets even more interesting. Practicing gratitude doesn't just make you feel good. It rewires your brain to see good more often. Neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to reorganize itself based on experience, means that what we focus on, we begin to notice more. So if you begin your day recognizing what you appreciate, your brain becomes primed to find more things to appreciate. And that's not just about being optimistic. That's about creating a mental framework that supports healthier decisions, stronger relationships, and better performance. Because gratitude doesn't mean ignoring problems, it means facing them with the strength of perspective. It means saying, yes, things may be difficult, but here's what I still have. Here's what's still working. Here's what I still believe in. That's the kind of mindset that doesn't crumble under pressure. It's the kind that adapts, perseveres, and grows. Think about the last time you were in a difficult situation, maybe at work, maybe in your personal life. Now think about what your mindset was during that time. Were you consumed by everything that was going wrong, or did you have something that helped ground you? Most people think the difference between those who break down and those who rise up is strength. But the truth is, it's perspective, and gratitude builds that perspective over time. It trains your mind to zoom out to see the full picture, not just the pain point. There's a reason some of the most emotionally intelligent people you'll ever meet are also the most grateful. They're not immune to stress or struggle. They've just learned how to keep their emotional footing when the ground starts to shake. They wake up, and before the demands of the day begin to pull them in every direction, they take a moment to anchor themselves in what's real and right in front of them. Sometimes it's something big, their health, their family, their opportunities. Sometimes it's something small, a sunrise, a warm cup of coffee, a moment of silence before the world wakes up. But the size of the gratitude isn't what matters. It's the habit of acknowledging it. When you begin your morning by expressing gratitude, even silently to yourself, you shift your emotional baseline. You create a buffer that helps you navigate the friction of daily life. You build up a reserve of positivity, not toxic positivity, but resilient optimism that keeps you from spiraling into negativity when things go wrong, because they will go wrong. That's life. Gratitude doesn't shield you from life's difficulties, but it does give you the strength to face them without losing yourself. I remember working with someone who was navigating an incredibly challenging time in their career. Projects were failing, team morale was low, there was pressure coming from every direction. And yet every morning without fail, they would write down 3 things they were grateful for before stepping into the chaos. I asked them once why they kept doing it, especially when there didn't seem to be much to be grateful for. And they said something I'll never forget. Because gratitude is how I remember I'm still in control of how I show up when I can't control what happens next. That kind of mindset isn't built overnight. It's built through repetition, through the daily decision to find the good, even when it would be easier to dwell on the bad. And the earlier in the day you make that decision, the more powerful it becomes. Gratitude in the morning is like a compass. It sets your direction before the distractions and demands have a chance to pull you off course. It tells your mind, this is what matters. This is where we begin. And once you start, you begin to notice just how much there really is to be thankful for. Not just the big wins or the obvious blessings, but the everyday miracles we so easily overlook. The breath in your lungs, the roof over your head, the people who believe in you, the fact that no matter how yesterday ended, you get another chance today to begin again. This isn't about being naive. It's about being intentional. Choosing to lead your mind instead of letting it be led. Choosing to focus on what strengthens you instead of what drains you. Choosing to build a life rooted not just in what you accomplish, but in what you appreciate. Gratitude, when practiced with consistency and sincerity, becomes more than a habit. It becomes a way of being, a quiet discipline that says, no matter what happens today, I will begin with what is good. I will acknowledge what is true. I will stand in the light before I step into the unknown. And that every single time is how strength begins. Most of us don't start the day with intention. We start with urgency. The emails, the meetings, the notifications, everything feels important and everything feels like it has to happen right now. So we do what we've been conditioned to do. We make lists. We write down every task, every demand, every little thing we think we should do, hoping that somehow, if it's all written out, we'll gain control. But instead, we look at that list and feel something completely different. Anxiety, pressure, paralysis, because deep down, we know we can't do it all. Not well, not meaningfully, and yet we try anyway. That's the trap of modern productivity. We confuse being busy with being effective. We wear multitasking like a badge of honor. But here's the truth. Trying to do everything is often the fastest way to accomplish nothing that really matters. That's why this one habit, choosing a single clear priority for the day, is so powerful. It's not about doing less. It's about doing what matters most with intention and excellence. When you wake up and choose just one task, mission that if completed would make the day feel like a win, you reclaim your agency. You move from reacting to leading. That choice isn't just logistical, it's psychological. It tells your brain, this is where we're going, this is what matters today. And suddenly, instead of being scattered in 5 directions, your energy flows toward one clear outcome. Think about it like this. If everything is a priority, then nothing is. Your brain isn't built to operate in chaos. It's built for focus. Clarity creates momentum. When you complete a meaningful task early in the day, it's not just that you get something done. You prove to yourself that you're capable, disciplined, and in control. And that feeling spills over. Confidence compounds. One completed goal leads to the next. And before you know it, simplicity is often the mark of mastery. Choosing one thing forces you to confront what really moves the needle. It forces you to ask what's going to make the biggest difference today. That question alone is transformational because it shifts your thinking from being task-oriented to being outcome-oriented, from checking boxes to creating impact. A teacher once told me she started her workday with a simple rule. If I can help one student today feel seen, heard, or more confident, I've done my job. That was her priority. And sure, she had dozens of responsibilities, grading papers, prepping lessons, attending meetings, but her energy was anchored in that one mission. And what happened was beautiful. She began to show up differently. Her interactions had more depth, her presence had more power. And at the end of the day, no matter how chaotic things got, she could point to one moment that truly mattered. That's the kind of clarity that makes work feel purposeful. Again, the same principle applies no matter what you do. Whether you're running a company, managing a household, or working on personal growth. The moment you ask, what's the one thing that will make today count, you give yourself the gift of direction. And that direction becomes discipline. Not the harsh, rigid kind of discipline we often associate with punishment, but the kind that's rooted in self-respect. The kind that says, my time matters, my focus matters, I matter. It's easy to get lost in the noise, easy to chase every urgent thing and call it necessary. But urgency and importance are not the same. Not everything that demands your attention deserves your energy. The ability to discern what truly matters and give it your full attention is one of the most valuable skills you can develop. And like any skill, it's built through repetition. One day, one priority, one decision at a time. There's something liberating about knowing that even if everything else falls apart, if you accomplished your one priority, the day is not lost. In fact, it's that mindset shift, moving from I have so much to do to I have one thing that matters, changes how you carry yourself. It brings calm to chaos, order to overwhelm, and it builds a muscle that most people never train. The ability to finish what you start. That's what sets this habit apart. It's not just about planning, it's about execution. Anyone can write a to-do list. Few people consistently follow through on the one thing they promised themselves they'd get done. And that's where self-trust is born. Every time you choose your priority and act on it, you're proving to yourself that your word means something. You're building integrity. And that kind of internal alignment between what you say matters and what you actually do is where true discipline lives. So tomorrow morning, before you open your inbox, before you check your phone, before the world gets its hands on your time, ask yourself, what's the one thing I can do today that will make everything else easier or less necessary? Don't pick 5, don't pick 3, just one, and then do it fully, intentionally, without apology or distraction, because that's how progress happens. Not in big bursts, not in all or nothing sprints, but in small focused wins that stack up day after day until the life you're building is no longer driven by pressure, but by purpose. We often think of connection as something passive, something that happens to us when we find the right people or the right moment. But connection, real connection, is not passive. It's intentional. And the way we begin our day in relationship with others can influence everything that follows. From how we manage stress, to how we perform at work, to how we feel about ourselves when we finally lay our heads down at night. One of the most overlooked truths in personal growth is this: how you treat people in the first few minutes of your day can change the trajectory of your entire life. It doesn't have to be a grand gesture. In fact, it usually isn't. It might just be how you greet your partner in the morning, how you speak to your kids before they head off to school, how you interact with the barista or bus driver or colleague who crosses your path before 9. Every interaction, no matter how briefest, an opportunity to infuse your world with energy, warmth, and positivity. And the remarkable thing is, when you give that kind of energy, you don't lose it. You multiply it. Simple good morning with sincerity, a smile that says, I see you, a quick message that says, hey, I appreciate you. These aren't just polite social rituals, they are emotional investment. They generate what psychologists call positive social energy, and that energy is contagious. It ripples outward and changes not just your own emotional state, but the emotional state of the people around you. And when you do it consistently day after day, it creates a culture, whether in your home, your office, or your community, where people feel safe, seen, and not just romantic ones, either friendships, professional bonds, family ties, even the brief but meaningful connections we make with acquaintances throughout our daily lives. What that tells us is this: investing in connection isn't a soft skill. It's a core strength, a life enhancer, and it doesn't require more time. It requires more intention. Picture the difference between two people walking into their day. One rushes past everyone lost in their phone, their schedule, their stress. The other pauses for a moment to make eye contact, to say something kind, to ask a thoughtful question. One leaves behind friction, the other leaves behind warmth. And what's most interesting is that both of them feel the impact. The one who gave the kindness often walks away feeling just as uplifted, if not more, than the one who received it. We are hardwired for connection. It's in our biology. Our nervous systems respond to warm human interaction by reducing cortisol and increasing oxytocin, the bonding hormone. That's why a simple positive exchange can lower stress, improve immune function, and even enhance cognitive performance throughout the day. It literally recharges us, like plugging in your emotional battery before stepping into the chaos of the world. And yet so many people skip this. Not out of malice, but out of habit. We get busy, we get tired. We assume people know we care, so we don't say it. We assume our smile won't matter, so we don't offer it. But imagine what could shift both in your life and in someone else's if you decided to start each day with just one intentional connection, just one moment of generosity, one human interaction marked by presence and kindness. I once met a leader who started every team meeting with a simple question: who did you lift today? It wasn't about productivity, it wasn't about numbers, it was about recognizing that their influence extended beyond tasks. They were expected to be people who made others better through encouragement, honesty, or simply by showing up with care. And the result wasn't just better morale, it was better performance. Because when people feel connected, they bring more of themselves to everything they do, and it works the same way outside of work. When you look your child in the eye and say, "I love how curious you are," or when you tell your partner, "I appreciate what you do for this family," you're not just strengthening a bond, you're creating a sense of stability, confidence, and trust. That becomes the foundation on which everything else is built. And it starts with the decision to connect deliberately and sincerely. We talk a lot about motivation and mindset, but connection is what sustains both. Without it, we feel isolated, drained, disoriented. But with it, we become more grounded, more energized, more capable of facing the day's challenges. And all it takes to begin is one intentional moment of presence. So tomorrow morning, before the day takes off, pause, look around. Who can you connect with, even briefly? Who can you acknowledge, appreciate, encourage? Who can you lift, not because they asked for it, not because it's required, but because it's the kind of person you've decided to be? That single choice might seem small, but it holds the potential to change your day and someone else's. Not through effort, through intention. And not someday, but starting now. Sometimes we assume that in order to experience real change, we need to uproot everything, that we need a major breakthrough, a new job, a 30-day challenge, or a once-in-a-lifetime event to jolt us into a better version of ourselves. But more often than not, transformation doesn't come in big dramatic waves. It begins quietly in the smallest choices we make every morning, in 5 minutes of stillness, in a single glass of water, in the decision to say thank you, to set one clear intention, to share a kind word. It's easy to overlook these things because they're so simple, but that simplicity is what makes them so powerful. They're accessible, repeatable, real, and when practiced consistently, they become the foundation for a life of meaning and direction. What's remarkable is that these habits don't require any financial investment. You don't need an app, you don't need a personal coach, you don't need to move across the country or start from scratch. All you need is willingness, a willingness to pause long enough to reflect, to choose how you begin your day, instead of letting the day choose for you. These 5 small acts, reflecting with intention, hydrating your body, practicing gratitude, naming your priority, and connecting with someone meaningfully, don't just add value to your life, they multiply it. Each one on its own may seem ordinary, but combined they create something extraordinary. Alignment. Alignment between your values and your actions, between who you are and how you show up. And that kind of alignment creates energy, not the kind that comes from caffeine or motivation videos, but sustainable energy that's rooted in clarity and purpose. It gives you something to stand on when the rest of the world feels uncertain. These habits are not about perfection. They're not about controlling every moment or checking off a to-do list. They're about creating a rhythm in your life that supports your best self, a rhythm that centers you before the demands of the day begin to pull you in a dozen different directions. They allow you to respond rather than react, to lead rather than follow, to create rather than just consume. And here's what's really beautiful about this approach. It's generous, because when you take care of your own clarity, energy, mindset, focus, and connection, you don't just benefit yourself, you elevate everyone around you. You become more patient with your children, more thoughtful with your partner, more present with your team, more kind to the stranger you pass on the street. These habits ripple outward in ways you'll never fully see, but others will feel it, and often that's how real impact works. Not by trying to change the world in one sweeping act, but by changing how we show up in our corner of it consistently. I've seen this firsthand in the lives of people who made a simple commitment to start their day differently. There was a father who began each morning writing down one sentence about something he appreciated in his daughter. And at the end of the year, he gave her that notebook as a gift. A nurse who used her 5-minute reflection time before each shift to ground herself in empathy, knowing she'd be walking into long hours and emotional strain. A young professional who replaced her morning scroll through social media with a moment of stillness and gratitude, and found her anxiety levels dropped significantly within weeks. None of them changed everything overnight, but by changing one moment, the first moment, they changed everything that came after. That's what this is really about. The power of starting strong, not perfectly, not loudly, but intentionally. Because how you start your day shapes how you live it. And how you live your day shapes who you become. So tomorrow morning, you'll be faced with a choice. It may not feel like a big decision. You might be tempted to roll out of bed and head straight into autopilot. But what if just for one morning you chose something different? You paused, you sat with your thoughts, you drank a glass of water, you took 30 seconds to feel grateful for something, anything. You chose one thing to focus on, and before you got pulled into the whirlwind of tasks and responsibilities, you made one genuine connection with a spouse, a colleague, a friend, or even a stranger. That's not just a good morning routine, that's the architect. These 5 morning choices are not hacks, they're anchors. And when practiced with consistency, they don't just make your mornings better, they make your life better. And one day, maybe not right away, but soon you'll look back and realize that the life you're living now started with one small courageous decision to own your morning, and doing so to own your life.